Welcome back to Real Estate Ramblings. I'm Amy Shrader with Remax Real Estate 10.
I'm Ashley Hunt.
Michelle Hodges.
All right, ladies, good to have y'all back. We were just sitting here complaining about the humidity and the rainy weather that we're getting now.
You all were.
You were out on your boat and got caught in the storm, so.
So you're complaining about the air, trying to
yeah,
hold off the
gross.
heat and humidity.
Yeah, she's freezing to death. And we're like, what's wrong with you? All right, so one of the things that I wanted to talk about was, Zillow came out with this new policy that if you do not input your listing on the MLS, then they are not going to allow it on their website, right? That's their new policy. But yet, just 4 or 5 years ago, Zillow was marketing to sellers saying, hey, don't put your home on the MLS. We'll buy it through that Zillow offers that they did. So, somebody else had pointed it out in a Facebook post, and I read it, and I was like, oh, my God, I hadn't even thought about that. But I just find that so ironic how their stance has flipped because they lost money during Zillow offers. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I know Zillow always comes up, whether you're working with a buyer, whether you're working with a seller. Everybody looks at Zillow, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you all combat questions when it comes to, well, Zillow said I should offer? Because, that's a new thing that Zillow's doing too, is they're telling buyers what they should offer on a house based on how long it's been on the market, if it's had price reductions, and all that kind of stuff. And then they'll tell them the probability of their offer being accepted. How do y'all combat that when you're dealing with people?
I think I just like to pull up comps myself of what's going on in the market and kind of give an explanation of how our market really is doing versus the virtual internet and how the choices are that they choose it. But
I think it's important that they understand that Zillow, it's not like Zillow's based out of this local market. So having that local market knowledge, they're giving you an overall screenshot of what they think is right, but they don't work in this local market and study the local market. I guess they've got algorithms and things of that nature that can bounce people around. But if that were flawless, then why are they flipping their stance? They're bouncing back and forth. And again, I would just reiterate, they're not local realtors. They don't focus on local markets. A lot of times they're taking like national averages and national numbers and things of that nature, and they're pushing things out. We even talked about how, lake properties, they're not considering the difference in lake properties and things of that nature. So Zillow's not flawless.
well, it's almost like having an agent from a different community come into our area, like Knoxville people. I know there's a house listed down below me, and it's got a Knoxville agent, and they've got Knoxville price on it. And I'm like, it's a double wide, and it's going to sit there, and it has sat there for a few months now. But
Yeah.
it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, and again, to reiterate what you said, if their algorithms were so flawless with their offers that they're putting out there, then when they were trying to buy homes to resell, they wouldn't have been in the losing proposition.
Yeah, why didn't it work?
Right.
So that, to me, that's the clearest definition that, yeah, their stuff's not always accurate. You know what I mean? But like I ran into it this weekend. We got an offer on one of my listings, and the seller's like, well, I know if when I went on Zillow and looked at it, it said that this is what they should offer and da-da-da-da-da. But they're not taking into account that buyer might be asking closing costs. And I said, okay, A, I didn't even know Zillow did that. But I said, B, you're putting a whole lot of stock in what Zillow's telling somebody.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, Zillow is not in it for the consumer. And anybody who believes that, whether you're buying or selling, is, highly mistaken. Zillow is in it to make money.
Right.
That has always been their business model. They take leads and they sell them.
And at the end of the day, everything's just a number to Zillow. They don't care whether you make money on your house. They don't care whether you lose money on your house. At the end of the day, they're giving you a service. They're conducting a business, and as well as I do, they're out to make money. It's just, and of course we all are. But when you're working with a real estate agent, and we're working on your behalf, the best for you.
Whether it's on the buy side or
the sell side. Absolutely, on either side. I mean, and these are folks that we're going to run into at the grocery store. You know, Zillow wouldn't have to hide their face, if, you know, or they might have to hide their face if they actually had to walk through the grocery store and look at people. But, you know, we want to be the kind of agents where we don't have to, where we can stand tall and know that we've done the best for our people.
Right. So the NAR updated its clear cooperation policy when they had their big national meeting a few weeks ago, and they came out with this delayed marketing.
Yeah.
I can't remember what they called it. But anyway, it gives the seller, you know, a certain period of time that they can just market within the MLS, so to speak, and it not be pushed out to all the third-party websites like Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com, and so on. So it was up to each individual MLS to determine, like, what's your maximum number of days they can do that? What are you going to calculate days on the market to be once it does go out, you know, to those public websites? So what are y'all's thoughts on that process? I mean, do you see that as a good thing, a bad thing? Do you think sellers are going to take advantage of that?
I mean, for the association, I feel like it's a good thing. I mean, for the folks who work locally and who put that time in, I feel like it's a good thing. Whether it's a sustainable thing and that's the right thing, and you know, for the client in the long run, I don't know. I don't know that I'm okay with answering that at this point.
Okay.
I think it could hurt. It could help the local market, but I think it could hurt our out-of-state people.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that you're going to get a whole lot of sellers to buy into
Agreed.
doing it. But I think if I were a buyer's agent, I would be on fire for this idea.
Right.
Because at that point, you are able to provide your buyer with listings
Absolutely.
they are not
Exclusive.
finding anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
The exclusive whatevers. And of course, Zillow's policy, a lot of people thought that it was a shot at NAR for this new policy they came out with, when in reality, the CEO of Zillow came out and said, no, that's not at all what we're saying. If you follow the MLS procedures and you do this, then you're fine. Your listing will still be on Zillow. They are more taking a shot at Compass, who right now, all their listings have like a 30-day exclusivity period. So they are using that to pick up buyers and say, we have listings you're not going to see on the internet.
Right.
It's kind of like the old days when you came in and had to look at the book.
Correct.
And I get that, but again,
I don't
think
know how
that's-
you sell that to a seller.
and that's my point too.
Yeah.
I mean, I do work with a lot of buyers, and I love working with buyers. So, like I said, I could see that being a good thing. But going back to what we talked about earlier, Zillow does what's best for Zillow. We want to do what's best for our clients, and so I would say I don't. At the end of the day, I don't think it's the best thing for a seller to limit their market.
And it may not always be the best thing, but I have had instances where sellers were like, you know, I don't really want this out
I get it.
on the internet. I want it to be more of a,
Local.
if you hear of somebody, you know, it's kind of like the pocket listing type thing that we've had forever and a day. You know, they don't really want to publicly market it, but they would be interested if somebody had a buyer.
Especially campgrounds. I noticed you had some of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, campgrounds sometimes, but because they don't want the people who are tenants there to get freaked out because it's going to sell. Sometimes you're going to have like apartment buildings, commercial properties, things like that. And then I had talked to a guy a few months ago that had, it was a farm that overlooked a lake. It would be prime development property for a subdivision. You know what I'm saying? Because the views from this property were absolutely amazing. I mean, you could see all the way to Hartford. You could see all those mountain peaks and the, you know, Smokies and stuff. And, you know, that was his. I don't want it publicly marketed, but I would be interested if you had somebody that wanted to purchase this.
Yeah.
And that's understandable. I mean, and maybe just having that and not have, gives people an option. You know,
Right, it's a
everybody can do what's
privacy
best
thing.
for them.
I think for some people,
Yeah.
like if you've got a unique property, a high-end property,
Sure.
you know,
You don't want people combing all over it or coming and looking through the window.
right. And I
It happens
mean,
all too often.
it does. I mean,
I
people
get it.
think, oh, you're crazy. That never happens. I
Oh,
can't tell you how
gosh.
many times people have knocked on the door of my listings. Hey, we saw you had a for sale sign in the yard. Can we come in and look? And they're like, no.
All right.
You know, and I always tell people that never let somebody come in your house because you don't know what their intentions are
Right.
or anything else. So, but I just didn't know. I don't know how you would sell that to a seller.
Agreed. Unless
I
they
can
need
see
it, also.
circumstances that they would want it, but I don't think that you're going to
Right.
have a whole lot of people who say, oh yeah, sign me
Yeah,
up.
it's going to be best for the buyer's agents. Let's do that.
Yeah. So one of the things that Michelle and I talked about this weekend is how, you know, before social media became what it is today, you know, sellers would say, well, what do you know about the buyer? What do you know about the buyer? And I don't ask
I hear
questions
that
about
all
the
the
buyer
time.
because it's none of my business. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? I'm taking that other agent at full value. They have, you know, vetted that buyer, da 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 da. But again, this happened over the weekend, had gotten an offer on a listing, and they socially stalked the buyers, like looked them up on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. And, you know, so now they're like, well, I mean, we really like this couple and we think they would, you know, be great to own this house, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just thinking to myself, you are just waiting for a fair housing lawsuit
Absolutely.
at that point. Because we have all of our sellers sign our listing agreement that says we have to be in compliance with fair housing.
Mm.
You know, we can't discriminate based on race, color, sex, national
Right.
origin, blah, blah, blah. So I can see in some cases maybe it does help to sway the seller to be a little more favorable in negotiation. But I could also see if they're doing that where, you know, maybe my seller is a staunch Republican
And they're
and they are absolutely against Republican Party conservatism and are very vocal about it. You know what I mean?
right.
How does that play into the negotiation process? Have you ever run into
I
that?
have. Actually, just recently I was selling a place, and the sellers actually lived behind the place that was for sale. And so once they seen the name on the contract, they went to Google searching and Facebook searching and wanted to actually back out of the contract because of the Facebook searches that they did. And I just try to explain to them, you know, we're kind of locked in. You can't just back out just because you didn't like what they post on Facebook and didn't want them to be your neighbor. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. And coming from an HR background, I'm just going to tell you, that's a bad.
Well, and
idea.
political party is not a.
Right. It's not protected.
It's not a protected class.
However, you are going out and just like you said the other day, you are profiling these buyers. You are building an opinion based off of your own, you know, your own thoughts. I wouldn't do it.
Well, and my thing is, and this is why I have my profile to private. Like, if you're not in my friends group,
Mm-hmm.
most of my posts you're not going to see.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I'm posting something real estate related, sure, I'll make it a public post. But, you know, you may only be seeing part of the picture
Mm-hmm.
if you're looking through Facebook or Instagram or whatever like that.
I
So,
can tell you, even like in employment law, and it's just kind of just going back to the diversity things, you have to think about different things, even like, you know, doing background checks and doing math tests and doing different things that we've done in the past and being able to put those things out there evenly. And are
I
you
think we should have a
profiling?
math test for real estate.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
fun.
But doing that, but making sure those same rules apply
Right.
to every person that you hire, or that you know you can't go by one set of rules when you're looking at this person. I can't give this person a math test and not give this person a math test. I can't do a background check on this one and not do one on this one. I'd say stay away from that stuff. And as long as somebody shows they've got the finances, you stay focused on how much you're going to make out your house, or how much, how to get the best deal on the house. But now I've had that too, where people walk through and they're sitting there and they're telling me all about the sellers of this house as I'm walking through. And I'm like, why?
Yeah, and I mean, my thing is, people want to know, why are they selling? I don't understand why that makes such a difference.
I don't know. You hear it all the time.
The value
But they
is in the
always
home.
want to know, why are they selling? If there's something wrong with the house, then obviously it's going to be in a disclosure. You know what I'm saying? But like, people sell for a lot of different reasons, most of which are very private. They might be going through a divorce. They might have had a spouse that died. They might have terminal cancer and want to, move closer to family. I just don't think that that's a relevant point,
Definitely.
when it comes to
I've had
selling
to
a house.
educate many buyers on that. Like, they don't necessarily mean they're selling it because there's something wrong with it. Maybe their lifestyles have changed. Maybe they just don't like the area anymore and they want to go back to where their kids are from, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I mean, family plays a huge factor in people selling.
Yes.
More so than I think anybody understands.
It's always, not always, but most of the time, I want to move closer to my
People get
parents
grandkids and they will
Yeah.
give up everything that they thought they wanted in life. I can't tell you how many lake sellers that I've talked to, and this was their lifelong dream, was to live on the lake, look out at that every morning, and then all of a sudden they've got a couple of grandbabies that live 4 to 6 hours away.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
I gotta go.
they can figure it out from there, but they want to get close to them grandbabies. And having one, I totally understand that. You know what I'm saying? Like, family matters.
Yeah.
So, but I think what you said, as far as like applying the same standards to every applicant when you were in HR,
Yes.
I think we as agents oftentimes overlook that when we're talking with buyers or sellers. And Susan Barnett has preached all the time in her classes that I've went to about, you should have a standard buyer intake form.
Right.
You should have a standard seller intake form. And when anybody calls you, you're going down through there and you're taking that exact same information so that you don't get accused of fair housing violation or, whatever like that. And I'm the world's worst. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't do that very often.
But you're absolutely right. And here's the issue: if we're not applying those same things, and you're talking about, yes, somebody's political party is not necessarily covered. However, different cultural groups will fall into different political parties at times. So sometimes it doesn't, you don't have to go in and say, well, you can say, oh, I was upset because this person was a Democrat. That's not, that's not protected. That still puts certain groups together and you knocking out certain groups of people. So don't think that
And I mean, I always cover that in my listing agreement. Like when we get to that part, I always say we do have to operate under the fair housing law,
Absolutely.
which states we can't discriminate against,
right.
race, color, sex, national origin, familial status, sexual orientation,
Right.
or sexual identity.
Right.
Because our fair housing is actually from NAR a little stricter than what the government, says. And everybody goes, oh, yeah, I understand that. And I go, okay, so what that means is that if I bring a gay Mexican couple in here to buy your house, that you're not going to say, oh, no, we can't sell to them. And they just kind of look at you and they laugh, but I'm like, I'm being
realistic.
serious.
Right.
Like, you can't profile who you're going to sell your house to, because at the end of the day, everybody's money's green.
Right. When I talk to my store managers, I just tell them, stay focused on the skills. Stay focused on the skills, just like sellers need to stay focused on the money. Stay focused on the money.
That's exactly right. So, do you think it's a fair housing violation if you have private listings?
What do you mean by private?
Like if you do the not marketed to the public type listing. If it's like a pocket listing, that would be the term we would use now because we've not put the delayed marketing in place yet. But you know, where you're not exposing it out to the masses, and it's like you're only sharing it with a select group of people.
Mm-hmm. I don't think that in and of itself is, but I do think it could probably open doors. And fortunately and unfortunately, but the reality is there just has to be a reasonable possibility. If a person can reasonably assume that there was a possibility that you did that, you can be in violation, whether you meant to be or not. So
Right.
I do think you have to be careful.
I think my biggest fear would be if you come under contract with one of those and they're like, well, it wasn't, publicly out there. What if we could have got more out of our house?
And I think you've got people who have sold through Compass recently that are right there getting ready to do a class action lawsuit on that.
That's kind of where I'm wondering, is there going to be some lawsuits eventually pop up? People are lawsuit happy this day and time, so I think eventually that's what you're going to run into.
Agreed. I think it opens doors. In and of itself, maybe not so much, but I do think it opens doors for that.
Well, I know, like when Facebook ads first came out, they were a realtor's dream.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because at that point you could, if I had $1 million lake listing, I could specifically target people based on their income.
Right.
And it's not like Facebook knows exactly, but they can tell based on their likes, their interests, their pictures they've posted. So you could, you weren't wasting your money putting this listing out in front of people who couldn't afford $1 million listing. And then, the government was like, yeah, that's a fair housing violation.
Yeah.
So they've cracked down on that, and you know as well as I do, if you run housing ads on Facebook now, it's like you don't get to pick the age range, you don't get to pick the income levels, you get a 15-mile radius around a certain place.
Right.
So it's just funny to me how the targeting ad, it worked really good, I can say that, because we had really good success with those. But that's how much our government pays attention to social media and what goes on in it, is the fact that they made Facebook quit doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So that they would quit violating the
I
fair
got
housing.
violated on Facebook this weekend. I got on our Remax website and asked about perk test, meaning soil. And I got violated. Meaning
I got the notice on that it had violated the community standards, and I was like, I don't even know what she would have posted. Sometimes it's like, a meme or a joke that agents will find funny, but I mean, Facebook doesn't look at what kind of group it is. They just scan everything.
I've argued it, and they let it go. That was the first one I've ever been able to get them to dismiss, though. But I was meaning a percolation test, and
yeah, they thought you were being dirty or something.
Oh, it said come back as drugs. That's what it said. Come back as. Yeah, violation of drugs.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would not have been what I thought, but.
Yeah, that's what they got. A perk, PERC.
Oh, Percocet. I'm with you now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have picked up on that either until you said it. I was like,
Being a bail bondsman, I was
get
like, dang, I can't believe that I even, of all people, I didn't think much of it. It's just,
you don't use
and a lot of
you don't
times
think
if you would just spell it PERK instead of the C, you probably wouldn't have been flagged.
yeah.
So, but I mean, all that is they have every post go through like an AI scanner thing, and it flags certain words, and who knows. Facebook's crazy anyway. So, are y'all seeing a shift in buyer demand? I know mortgage rates have been up, they've been down, they are kind of steady right now. What are y'all seeing?
I'm getting or noticing more sellers versus buyers now. Kind of like our market's shifting, in my opinion. Like I feel like we're starting to shift more to a different market.
Okay.
I feel like I do feel like buyers again are just far more selective now than they have been since I started. So I do think they're taking more time. They're looking through things. They're wanting to see more than 3 houses. They want to know what their options are. So I do think it's settled quite a bit.
Yeah. And the numbers don't lie. I mean, when we look at it, last year, the median time on the market for homes in Hamlin County was 10 to 14 days.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're up over 30.
Yeah.
And I think a large part of that also goes to the fact that house prices keep going up. I mean, if you look at the inventory in Hamlin County that's below 350, there's not a lot. But when you start looking at $500,000 and up, it will blow your mind how many homes are in Hamlin County that are that high right now.
Oh, yeah.
So, I don't know. I think it's a hard time, as you've always stated, it's a hard time for the local market.
Oh, absolutely.
And I can't tell you how many of my friends will message me and they're like, man, I hadn't been in the real estate market in a long time, and I went on Zillow, and I can't believe houses around here selling for that, you know? And I'm like, oh, I know, trust me.
Right.
It'll blow your mind. Blow your mind. So, what do you think for the rest of the year? Do y'all have an opinion on how the market's going to be? Do you think sales prices are going to steady out because of buyer demand coming down, or?
I think so.
I think we're about in a flat market. That's how I feel about it. I feel like we're level right now. It'll be interesting to see. I don't think it's going to scoop up unless something miraculous happens with the, interest rates and things of that nature. I think everybody's just kind of, I feel like it's leveled off. It's just kind of steady.
Mm-hmm.
I have reached out to a few lenders and kind of like, what do you think the market is now? You kind of seeing a little different side than we are, and they all kind of feel like it's starting to flip to a buyer's side a little bit now.
Well, and I wouldn't necessarily say it's at a buyer's side yet. If you look at the overall inventory in Hamlin County, technically, yes, it would be a buyer's market. But again, when you get price point specific in there,
Oh, yeah.
then there's still certain price pockets that are going to be very
Hard.
seller.
Especially if you look like 250 and under. Oh my goodness. Like, I know I have a house listed right now, and it's like, it's nothing for us to have like 8 people looking at it. It's crazy.
But even those homes are taking longer on the market to sell.
Oh, yeah.
You'll get a lot of activity,
Yeah.
maybe at first, and
Right.
then it's like it just kind of
Slowly lingers off.
lingers off. And I sometimes think that buyers, if they know that there's a lot of activity on a house, they're like, well, I don't want to get in a bid anymore.
Absolutely.
And I think they're holding back to see, and once it doesn't go under contract immediately, they'll revisit it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, well, we got through that first rush.
Right. Maybe
Now-
we can get a realistic price on this house
Yeah.
now, or
Right.
a realistic deal on it.
Or maybe
without
they're
having
going to
to
look
jockey.
more at an offer than they would,
Right.
right off the bat. So I know we had a listing that was a totally remodeled home, move-in ready, couldn't ask for a cuter little place. And these people put an offer in like the first weekend we were on the market and wanted us to basically take the house off the market for 2 months because she had a house to sell, the buyer
Yeah.
did, and didn't even have it on the market.
Yeah.
And my sellers were like, I don't know about that. So I was like, well, let's just counter them. Because I always hate to be the one to kill a deal. You know what I'm saying? Let's counter them, see if we can work something out. So, we're willing to do a first right of refusal. We can do some non-refundable earnest money if you want us to take it off the market for 60 days. And no, they wasn't going to do it. Well, okay, put yourself in their shoes. As
Yeah.
a seller of your house, would you want to do that?
Because once it comes off the market, it's usually a red flag. Instantaneously, everybody's like, oh, it's failed inspections.
Yeah. And it is very hard
Yeah.
without doing price
Huge red
reductions
flag.
to get it back under. So, and it doesn't matter. I have found what you put in public remarks or agent remarks about a house falling through,
Oh, yeah.
it's still the stigma.
Mhm.
So, all right. So you think we're probably going to be more pro-buyer by the end of the year?
I do.
I think we're gonna stay level. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but to me, like I said, it just feels like just a level market right now. I don't really feel like it's pulling in either direction. I think the folks that are engaged in the market right now, and I think it's just more calm than it's been in probably the past 3 years.
Do you notice that you're coming down on prices a little bit more than when you originally start? That's kind of what I'm noticing.
Yeah, and I go into the listing appointment with my idea of price, and it never aligns.
I know, right?
with what the sellers want. You know what I'm saying? So I've just started going in with the 10-10 rule. Like, you know, if we're 10 days on the market, we don't have a showing, we got to reduce the price. If we have 10 showings and no offers, we're going to reduce the price. Unless they're willing to go with my price out of the gate. But, yeah.
Sometimes
It's hard for sellers to get out of the mentality of, my house is going to sell in 2 weeks.
because it's sentimental to
Right.
them. They think it's the best and the top on the market. A lot of times in their mind, oh, there's nothing wrong with this house. It's perfect. And they don't realize that, you know, every house has some issues. Doesn't mean it's perfect for every buyer.
Well, and I think there's still a lot of agents out there who take a listing at whatever price the seller tells them to put it at, and then their strategy to get it sold is to make them reduce the price every week. I can't tell you how many listings that every week, every 2 weeks, you see them on that price change report, and you're just like, if you'd have priced that thing right out of the get-go, you probably would have had it sold by now.
Yeah.
So, I don't think that's a good listing strategy.
I agree.
I mean, unless somebody is in a I have to sell situation that they've got, you know. But it's funny to me because people will tell you at the listing appointment, oh, we're not in a hurry to sell. You know, we want this price for it. We know what our home is worth. But you let it sit on the market for 30 days and they've only had 2 or 3 showings and it's not getting in. And all of a sudden, their butt's on fire.
Mm-hmm.
To get that house sold. And I'm like, well, it sounds like your motivation's changed.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, from our initial conversation. And so if you're looking to get a quicker sale than you were previously, this is where we need to be. Well, no, our motivation really hadn't changed. And I'm like, yeah, it has. If you're mad because you've been on the market 30 days and haven't got an offer.
Listen, I don't know if, well, I know you remember, but I had some clients in a listing last year which, yes, their house looked like a little dollhouse. It was very pretty. She had decorated it gorgeously, all of those things. But in reality, there were limitations on the house. It had 1.5 baths, not 2.5 baths. And we were trying to explain to them it belongs in this price point. They were convinced they could get, at $75,000 more than that. So that thing sits on the market, not one showing. Because when folks go in, they're not saying, hey, let me look at the prettiest house in here. They're looking at things like the square footage, how many bedrooms, how many baths, and that's going to determine where that price point is going. Now, don't get me wrong. Yes, aesthetics matter. Nobody wants to spend a fortune to try to live comfortably in a home. But at the same rate, that pretty is not everything either. So you've got to have, got to have those bathrooms, got to have those types of things in order to get
and
it
how a
at
house
those
is
times.
decorated, you're not buying the
Right,
furnishings and the decorations.
Right.
I mean, I've walked into houses that, sure, they're a showcase house.
Yes.
And if we were going to be featuring them on HGTV, they would stand out. But I'm like, at the end of the day, we need to minimalize what you've still got in the house for the,
they can
pics
see
and the
themselves in
showings.
here. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. But you remember the one I'm talking about, and it was just total frustration and mad at me because they can't get what they want out of the house. Listen, I can't make your house be worth more than it is.
Yeah.
I can only be realistic with you about what the market's going to bring for that.
Right. And again, you can't negotiate in real estate based out of emotion.
Right.
It needs to be just, it's a numbers thing.
It's business.
For both the buyer and the seller.
Absolutely.
It's a numbers game, and whoever can come to a happy medium either way. I did like it better back in the early days when I started selling, that you didn't have social media and people couldn't get on there, and that wasn't even thought about. Like, I'm not going to stalk them on Facebook or anything like that. I just liked it when it was flat.
Here's business. Yeah.
Here's the business of
Too
it.
bad we can't take the names off the contracts so they can't search them.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one thing that, like, our MLS says you have to put, the name on there. I'm not really sure why that matters so much. Probably because agents don't input them correctly to map it right.
That
And so when you're
happens.
trying to pull up the
Yes.
CRS report, it sometimes does help to have that name to reference.
Yes, it does.
Which I don't
Especially
understand.
land.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I was telling her I had to go look at a house in Sneedville, and when I pulled it up on CRS and stuff, I always check to see which end of Snake Hollow am I closest to. You know, because you don't want to go on the wrong end of Snake Hollow and have to drive it. If you've never been down Snake Hollow in Sneedville, try it one day.
Yeah.
So I knew from looking that I was off of the Newman's Ridge side. But then when I put it in my GPS and headed out there, it was taking me down 33 to get on Snake Hollow. I'm like, oh, no, we can't do this. So I put the latitude and longitude off of the CRS into my Google map. And so that got me there. You know what I'm saying? But I probably could have found it just with the address, but
But had a different road or hit the same road on the bad end.
exactly. All right, ladies, anything else we need to talk about?
I think so.
All right. We will see you guys in another couple of weeks.
Bye.